Hey yo, what is up guys? Omni here. So, we are back to Crystal Beast Runick, and I have a couple of reasons why I want to talk about this deck again. First of all, I have some gameplay to show you. Second of all, it's a fun rogue slash jank deck that actually somehow works. And third of all, I found some new combos, including Shifter, which improved this deck by a lot, since our win condition is to just spit out win conditions as fast and reliable and easily as possible. And with all of this being said, let's go over some new combos, then we are going to talk about the deck a little bit, and then I will show you some gameplay. So, before we are going into the first combo, I want to talk about our strategy a little bit. We want to deck out our opponent, and therefore we need to survive a few turns, because you can't deck them out in 2 turns. And in the previous video I showed you endboards with Griffin and Colossus. It's still a nice endboard, but it's matchup dependent. So if you're going blind into a game, it's way better to go for this kind of endboard because it allows for interactions, even if you don't have the right Runick cards in your hand. And you can make this endboard without putting any quirky cards into your main deck. And let's go over it. All we need for this combo is Pegasus, or any card that gains us access to Pegasus, and 1 Runick quick play spell. And we will just do the usual plays we would do, but instead of going for Nightmare Griffin and Colossus, we are just opting for a different endboard, right? So we special summon out Nemeses Flag, and he can search for Archnemeses Eschatos. We link our stuff away, special summon Eschatos by banishing cards, so Banshee will trigger and compact dual board. Eschatos in this game position right now is very interesting. If you have knowledge about what your opponent is playing, you can optimize your plays right now. And if it's game 2, you already know what your opponent is playing, and you also have the chance to see what your opponent is playing when you activate cards like Runick Tip or Slumber, and maybe just by chance you banish the top cards that reveal what strategy your opponent is playing. So if you see malice cards in this position right now, you can call Cybers. And what Eschatos will do, you can declare 1 monster type that is currently on the field, then destroy every monster on the field right now with this type, and until the end phase, neither player can special summon monsters with that type. So you call Cybers, your opponent is playing Malice, and since Malice is nothing but Cybers cards, he's not able to play the game for a whole turn. The same goes with dragons by themselves. If your opponent is playing any Primite cards or the Blue Eyes strategy, he's also locked out for a whole turn. Pyro should be good against Snake Eyes and Ryzeal, I think. And if you don't have any knowledge about what your opponent is playing, you just call Dragon. It doesn't hurt yourself, and maybe just by chance you hurt your opponent by that, because many decks just play random pieces that are dragons. For example, Centurion plays Bestial cards, they cannot access their Bestial cards. Even Snake Eyes plays dragon cards like Flamberge Dragon. And even if our opponent doesn't bother about dragons at all, and we call dragon because we don't have knowledge, we shouldn't worry about it because we can still link him just off for IP, which is also pretty decent. So we go into Pit Knight here, we set up our Runick engine, and during our opponent's turn, when we activate IP, we can also trigger early, and early allows us to negate the effect of any monster on the field when a card that is calling to activates their effect. So we have a negate, and with IP we can make a link 2 play, a link 3 play, or a link 4 play, so we have options for that. I do think Nightmare Unicorn is very amazing, just because you can co-link it with Pit Knight early and you can discard something. Maybe you have a duplicate Runick card, right? You discard it, and you even get to get more draws with it since we have Runick Fountain that is active. We can also use IP right now together with Eschatos to go for SP Little Knight. So like I said, we just use Eschatos for link fodder, so we don't bother that we didn't hurt our opponent by calling Dragon. And we can even go into link 4 plays like Nightmare Griffin, or maybe you want to play Avramax, or any other link 4 that is helpful in this position, but I just want to show you that you can play it. So let's go over the Shifter combo. The only reason why I found out that we can play Shifter is because I got shifted during a game, and then I realized that I don't even care about being shifted. So we can play it happily in our side deck and play it game 2 or 3 going first or second, that doesn't matter. The only real difference is we are in a weird game state where we should set our Runick cards instead of playing them out immediately probably. but let's go over it. Let's say Shifter got activated. What really important is that you immediately chainlink to a Runick quick play spell, so it goes into your graveyard, since Dimension Shifter hasn't resolved yet. But other than that, we still do the same things we would usually do, and we can even end on Colossus more easily, since everything gets banished and we don't need to make any quirky plays to get something banished. And yeah, that should do a lot, since many decks can't even play under Shifter. So it's another win button we can play, right? My opinion, it's pretty amazing. Also, instead of going for this endboard, you can go into a different endboard. We can also make Babushka under Shifter, which is pretty nice, since we have some sort of variation. Again, we need to chainlink 2 or Runick cards again, but instead of going for Hugin, we're going to make Gary, and that way we can make a rank 4 play and go into Babushka, and then we just link off the rest for SP Little Knight. Like I said, since Shifter is active, everything gets banished anyway, so we have no issues at all special summoning Corridor onto our board. So let's go over my current deck list and what improvements I made. We still play 3 Pegasus for obvious reasons, it's a combo starter. We still play 2 Rainbow Dragon, it's absolutely necessary, because if you have 1 in your hand already, you cannot resolve any of the Crystal Beast spell cards you have. So by having 2, you just increase the chance of all those cards not being dead. I also upped the count of Salvation to 2. I also tried out 3, but playing 3 is a little bit overkill. 2 is completely fine. You want to see it in your hand to discard it, and with it you can search a Crystal Beast monster and 1 field spell, so you can search either Fountain or Chicken Game, and you can search your combo starter. So it's a very nice addition to the deck, since it's also increasing your consistency. We still play the Nemesis package. We play Eschatos for obvious reasons, like I showed in the combos. He's just a very nice endboard piece, and you can blindly call Dragon, and maybe it helps you out. If you would play Protos, which you still can do, you just cannot call anything blindly with Protos, since you're not guaranteed to gain any favor by calling Dark, but meanwhile you would just destroy some of your endboard doing that. So I think Eschatos is correct to play in the main deck, and you can side Protos if you want to do that. We still play the whole Runick package. 3 Ash Blossoms, I think it's absolutely necessary. I didn't have the chance to test it out, but Pot of Desires in theory should be amazing for our deck, mainly because once we are done with the Crystal Beast cards, we still have some of them left over in our deck, but they don't serve any purpose for you anymore. So if you draw into one, it doesn't help you out in the further game state. But with Pot of Desires, you have the chance to thin out your deck by banishing them, and then on top of that you draw 2 cards. And ideally this would be 2 quick play spell cards. And since we rely on the Runick engine so heavily, having more quick play spells in your hand favors your gameplay a lot. So, and another thing is Chicken Game, it also thins out your deck. But what is especially amazing about it, if you have the chance to sequence it that way, you can activate Runick Fountain, get the draws of it, activate Chicken Game, get another draw, and then you just activate any Runick quick play spell, and then you special summon out Gary, and Gary can gain you back the Runick Fountain you put in your graveyard already. So if you have the chance to do it that way, it allows for awesome plays. Triple Tactics is still a very nice card, so I just left it in the deck. I also switched up some of the cards in the extra deck. Typhon is very nice. If we go second, he can help us out. He's a floodgate by itself, he's also a board breaker, and since we are not such a combo heavy deck, it shouldn't be a problem to play him at all. We still play our combo pieces. Even though I'm not trying to go for Cross Sheep anymore, I still think Doom Dragon is pretty epic, since he's just a board breaker. As you can see, I don't play Cross Sheep in the extra deck. You can try to figure out what to exclude for him, but I don't think he's that necessary anymore, since we don't go for the Griffin line anymore. And also Cross Sheep is just a telegraphed play, so once he's on the board and you make your fusion summon, your opponent just knows I will imperm this or veiler this, and from this position you cannot do any play anymore. The side deck is not perfect at all. I just want to show you some options. Set rotation should be decent against Ryzeal, I think. I showed you the shifter combos, so shifter is a must play in my opinion. We can also play Dimension Fissure, since it doesn't target, it doesn't banish our spell cards. We need some sort of board breaker going second. And also, I think Phantasme is a very good card, since you can theoretically special summon it, have nothing in your graveyard, and draw something like Shifter or any board breaker going second. And yeah, like I said in the first video, it's a fun deck. You can just try it out and you can make your own improvements. I just wanted to show you what I found out. And before we go over the gameplay I got for you, I want to show you one response I got during a game, one message. And it's not the first time that I got a message like that, but it shows how salty people get on Edo Pro. And it's not only that I don't want to bother with the saltiness of my opponent. Playing on Edo Pro doesn't benefit you at all, since people get salty immediately and scoop up games, so it's also impossible to play best of threes. Therefore, you will realize most of the gameplay I have is best of ones, but you cannot play out best of threes anymore. People get immediately salty and scoop up games. It's just not fun anymore to play there, to be honest. And it also doesn't benefit you, because you cannot play out best of threes, and therefore you don't get to see your side deck, or you don't get to improve your side deck, and you cannot play out any game in any form of way that includes any sort of mistake, because the second someone misclicks or misplays, they scoop up the game anyways. So in the future I will try out something else other than Edo Pro. Maybe you got a similar experience, please share it with me in the comments. I would like to read over it. So let's go over some of the things I have to say about the deck. The first thing is, we need to be aware of triple tactic talents, because people play it a lot. It's in a lot of the main decks. I had to realize it real quick. I was facing the card a lot of times. And what would usually happen is that I have IP on my field, and during my opponent's turn I use its effect to link summon, and I would go into Avramax thinking that I will survive 1 or 2 more turns with it. But what my opponent would just do is to activate talents and get control of Avramax, and he doesn't have protection against it. So from there I just immediately lose the game. So we need to be aware of triple tactic talents. This is also the reason why I don't have Avramax in my extra deck anymore. I just don't think it's a play right now. Another thing that is very nice, for us at least, by playing the Runick cards, we have the chance to banish random one-offs or garnets that are necessary for our opponent's strategy. You will see a gameplay somewhere in this video where I'm playing against Ancient Gear, and all I did was activate Runick Tip and banish Ancient Gear Golem off the top of their deck. And as far as I know, the complete strategy of Ancient Gear is to resolve their spells which need Ancient Gear Golem in their hand or on the field to resolve. So by banishing it off the top of the deck and they don't have access to it anymore, they immediately just lose the game, because they are not able to play the game properly anymore. And we didn't even set up our board. Just by the fact that we banished something off the top, we just won the game. And this is also a reason why I personally hate the engine. I think it's lovely that we have a control focus deck, but I remember a lot of times when I played Crystal Beast, every time I would play against Runick, they just banished my cards that I need for my combos, so from there I couldn't play myself, and I know the struggle of it. So this is something we can get lucky with. We cannot force it to be consistent, to banish some garnets. But as I said, sometimes you get lucky and then you just immediately win the game on the spot. And it's not even our main condition to win, but it can happen, which is pretty nice. And another thing that isn't so nice for us is the current meta. And I say this specifically because I had to find out that once I wasn't trying to play the Cross Sheep and Snake Eyes Doom Dragon play anymore, that all the cards I'm using would have been completely fine and legal before Crossover Breakers and even Supreme Darkness. So I don't want to know how playable this deck would have been in a different meta, in the past meta, but I just hadn't had the idea back then. it took a few cards like Snake Eyes Doom Dragon to pick up Crystal Beast again and to look what we can play with it. And with that being said, the current meta, we have Ryzeal, we have Malice, the two most popular and strongest deck in the current meta. We need to find some win condition against them. As of right now, I haven't played the Ultimate Slayer package, even though it's obvious you should play it. I just haven't done it yet. We probably have enough space in the side deck to play Ultimate Slayer and the XYZ target. But from the games I had against Ryzeal with my engine, I had two issues. The first would be, if you go first, what they will do is probably hand trap you to death. And again, if you play, like I said earlier, cross sheep, you just really telegraph where you have to be interrupted to stop you from playing. Because if you have cross sheep on your field and you special summon Snake Eyes Doom Dragon, you can be sure that your opponent will actively obtain the knowledge to hand trap your cross sheep with Imperm or Veiler, for example. And if you go second, since they are able to chain their monster on the board multiple times, even during the same chain, to pop cards on the field, you have a pretty tough time resolving Runick Fountain, or just to get rid of it, since they can also negate with the field spell. So I do think it would make a lot of sense to play Ultimate Slayer to increase the win chance. Playing against Malice is a complete different beast. Since we're banishing cards off the top of their deck, anyhow, it doesn't matter which turn it is, we just do them a favor by doing that. So we need some real dedicated tech cards to try and win the game. I actually got the chance to play against a friend who plays Malice, and the matchup went as expected. The first game I lost the dice roll and by default just immediately lost the first game. The second game I managed to get out Protos and I drew into There Can Be Only One, and with both cards active, your opponent is not in the same game anymore because he cannot play anything. So with that, the second game was an easy win. And then there was this third game, which was pretty interesting. He comboed off, going first into Oblivion. And his main deck wasn't containing a lot of cards anymore. It was roughly 20, I think. And going on from there, I knew, okay, I shouldn't focus too much on breaking the board. I should more focus on resolving the cards to banish the cards as fast as possible. So in like 1 or 2 turns I can win the game. And it was much closer than I thought, to be honest. I was almost able to do that. At some point I just choked because I didn't drew into any more quick play spells. And I actually got the chance during that game to resolve Pot of Desires. And the card did exactly what it was supposed to do. So in theory, you have your Runick quick play spells, you play them out, and once you're left with nothing to play anymore, you just resolve Pot of Desires, and it doesn't matter what kind of engine you are banishing away with the card, because you draw 2 more cards, and with having 2 more cards in your hand, you can actually continue playing, which you wouldn't be able to do if you didn't resolve Pot of Desires. So in theory, it just doesn't matter what you're banishing. And as I said, we have redundant Crystal Beast cards in our deck, and if we banish them too on top of that from our deck, we have much more cards left in the main deck that we actually want to draw. So that's actually pretty awesome. I do think it's a nice addition to the deck. Would I recommend buying the deck? To be honest, if you have the Runick engine already, I would highly advise you to get the Crystal Beast cards. But the other way around, I wouldn't be too sure of that. Just because it wouldn't make sense to pay real money to get an engine that is so unfavorable in the meta right now against Malice, unless I will be able to find some dedicated tech card that makes this matchup an auto win for some reason. I don't think it's worth it at all to touch Runick cards, to be honest. I will definitely take this deck to locals at some point. I will probably not get some footage there. I don't even have the equipment for that. But I do want to make a real life deck profile and talk about the matchups there and how it was. I also have one more idea for Crystal Beast Runick. So if you're interested in more content of this deck, you can sign up for at least one more video. And and here right now, during this game, you will see why I included Chicken Game in the deck. Just look at it, you sequence it. If you have the chance to sequence it that way, the amount of advantage you gain is so hilarious. You activate Runick Fountain, get the draws, activate Chicken Game, get some more draws, and then you just special summon out Gary to get Runick Fountain back from the graveyard for free and just act like nothing happened. And from there you can also draw more cards again. It's disgusting. And with all of this being said, thank you for watching, have a good day, have a good night, and sleep well.